as we invoke the thought-provoking discussion, tackle the tough questions, challenge assumption, and give a voice to the unheard. This is the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM.
Welcome on board the Morning Express.
Good morning.
Good morning, this is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola. Welcome to Thursday, the 23rd of January 2025. I hope that you're tuned in, you're ready to learn, you're ready to kickstart your day with all the latest headlines and insight that are making the waves today. From national stories to local happenings, all you need to know, best believe we'll present that information to you. Once again, my name is Sage Babalola and we are Mainland 98.3 FM. We create an opportunity for you to discuss important matters as they affect you and I. And the best way to do that is, of course, keep you informed so you know the right things to even talk about. And for every morning, we reference the front pages of our dailies to sort of create a guideline for the many conversations that we would have on radio. Hence, trends in the papers. At the segment of the Morning Express that we are about to kickstart. Trends in the papers, we look at the dailies, we look at our newspapers, we look at the top stories, and then we have conversations around it, or they might be developing stories. We create the background for you and then keep you aware of the development that has trailed that particular story. So it promises to be fun, it promises to be interesting, and it's not just about presenting the stories to you, it's about also having more conversations, further conversations by means of analysis, which means that we sort of expand it and allow for multiple perspective on the issue by taking your phone calls during Mainland Focus. But for now, what we want to do is review the papers. We're on social media, so you'd like to join us on social media. I'd also implore that you follow us, because if you're following us, every time that we come on air and we begin a live stream, you will be notified. So the minute you're following us on social media, when we start a live stream or we upload a new video or we put up a new program, you're immediately notified that there is new content on our social media and you can go and engage said content. So you can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on X as well, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, all at Mainland 98.3 FM. Our X handle is Mainland FM, but across Facebook and YouTube you can follow us at Mainland 98.3 FM. You can also listen via Radio Garden at Mainland 98.3 FM or via our official website at www.mainlandfm.com. Let's kickstart conversations right away. The Punch, the Guardian newspaper, and the Vanguard newspaper are the dailies that would be considering this morning as we begin conversations. Fuad Said, our in-house analyst, joins us via the phone, like I said, to expand the conversations that we begin by referencing our dailies. Good morning, Fuad. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Sage. Good morning. How are you doing?
Well, I'm as well as I can be. It's nice to have you. All right. I'm very tired. But I'm not. Please, I'm very, very happy.
Thank God it's Thursday.
Thank God it's Thursday. Yes. Happy. Yes. Let's kickstart the day with energy. We don't have to let them know what's going on. But yes, happy Thursday, happy Friday, and more happy Saturday. Actually, that's the one that will be happier for me. But you happy Sunday, Fuad. You are here until almost 9 p.m. Anyways, well, good morning to you, Fuad. Let's start conversation with the Guardian newspaper, and we have election issues here. The Guardian is reporting costly by-election worry INEC as IPAC demands credible polls. That's what the Guardian is telling us, and it's so surprising that INEC is finally opening up about their struggles when it comes to by-election. There are writers to the story. We have says by-election unpredictable, unbudgeted, difficult to plan. Start preparation now. Nigerians don't want excuses, IPAC tells INEC. Accuses judiciary of meddling in political party affairs. Falana backs electoral body on discontinuing wasteful by-election. JᴏɪＲ knocks Tinubu's electoral reform, urges action before next poll. INEC schedules FCT area council election for February 21, 2026. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has raised alarms over the mounting number of by-elections triggered by elected lawmakers vacating their seats to take up executive roles, both in the state and national levels. The INEC chairperson, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, had voiced these concerns yesterday during a meeting with members of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, lamenting that the unpredictability and the strain that are caused by these elections are not only unbudgeted for, but also diverts the Commission resources. I believe there were figures provided as to how many by-election INEC have had to deal with. All right, it says here that since the inauguration of the National and State Assemblies in June of 2023, at least 23 vacancies have arisen due to deaths of serving members of their voluntary resignation for executive positions. And Yakubu revealed that while INEC conducted 9 by-elections last year, 14 more vacancies have emerged. But the electoral body is complaining about the frequency of by-elections. Typically, when we allocate monies to INEC, we're allocating for either state elections, federal elections, and what have you. But the thing with by-elections is for every time somebody dies, the person who occupies that position dies, or they are appointed or they take on an executive role, it becomes empty, and then they have to conduct an election. Now, it's so unpredictable that you cannot budget for it, and so monies that you have set aside for other electoral matters would now have to be deployed into that. And so there are recommendations, right? INEC is recommending, or INEC is saying that maybe we should not constantly conduct by-election, and in fact their notion is supported by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, who says since the vote belongs to the party, if an individual from that party dies or attains an executive position, just nominate somebody from within the party.
From the party?
Yes, since the vote is for the party and not for the individual, nominate somebody from within the party to take over rather than burden INEC with having to conduct a fresh election and waste resources. Let's take it one after the other, the riders forward. What do you think about this proposition by the Senior Advocate of Nigeria? Do you think that this still, in a way, reflects the kind of democracy that we're preaching in Nigeria?
Well, I think the idea is not a bad one, because again, there are several cases in which even the Supreme Court had ruled that votes actually belong to the political party, especially when it comes to legislative appointees, elected officials. We're talking about senators, House of Reps members, even the executives. So there have been several instances and cases where the courts have ruled that, look, votes actually belong to politics. One of the many examples would have to be that of Amici in Rivers State, how he became governor without even being on the ballot. But because the votes belong to the party, and whatever has been done did not, follow the rule of law, they eventually emerged as governor without being on the ballot, if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. So, Femi Falana here, and even the argument of INEC is that, instead of having to conduct this election, when somebody dies, for example, because these are things you can't budget for. You can't even capture it under miscellaneous. See, it's difficult for you to capture it because you can't predict the death of anybody. You don't know how many legislators, for example, will die. To the extent that you now begin to think of how to conduct a by-election or how to budget for it. Right. Appointments too. See, look at the king in Plateau State, the former governor who was first appointed as minister, and then I think he was appointed as minister, but eventually took up his senatorial positions and all of that. And we have seen people who are elected as senators who eventually got appointed and then they vacated the seat. Hello?
I'm with you, Fuad. Please go ahead.
All right. So in situations like that, you understand that, look, INEC will be worried. And that's why I think the suggestion of Femi Falana on SAN is not a bad one. I don't know why the Labour Party, for example, is against that idea. Because they are insisting that, look, the by-elections are not supposed to be problematic, since most of the materials are available. But what of the logistics to move the materials around and all of that?
Ad hoc staff and all that.
It's still a lot of money. Sorry?
Ad hoc staff and all that.
Ad hoc staff, logistics, the planning. For me, it's even too much of a distraction, really, for INEC. One would expect that, look, we have the off-cycle elections. They are supposed to plan adequately for those ones. You have the general elections. You are expecting that they will, of course, also plan adequately for those ones. And when you have this intermittent interference in the operations with these by-elections, some of them needless, because you have people who suddenly they win elections and then they are appointed and they just vacate it, and then you must conduct elections on those things. You can even excuse the ones that happen as a result of death. Nobody plans for that. But for those that have had won elections, okay, look at that of the current chief of staff. That's a very good example. You know, he had won already, as an House of Reps member.
And then he was
appointed as chief of staff. He vacated the seat, and then INEC would have to go and conduct the election again.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be a party thing, since the vote originally belongs to the party. So let them sort themselves out, although that will also cause a lot of trouble. But the politicking and the cost and the problem will be limited to within the party. I think it's a reasonable suggestion. But again, this will have to go through constitutional amendment. See, it's just a problem. It will have to still go through. But I think it's a good idea, so that we don't disturb ourselves with some of these by-elections.
Well, IPAC, for example, the chairman of IPAC is indicting the judiciary. He says that they've turned the court to a bazaar, right, where they some of their judgments sort of interferes with inter-party issues. And so the IPAC chairman said the judiciary should remain impartial and uphold justice, warning that some judicial officers have turned the court into marketplaces. He called for the CJN to take decisive action against corrupt judges, particularly those that meddle in political parties' affairs. And they said, yes, we are aware of the political dispute that are within several political parties, and it can contribute to political instability. But the role that even the judiciary plays in all of this further exacerbates the crisis, because sometimes you have conflicting judgments. The High Court would give one judgment and then the Appeal Court says something else, and now we have two individuals who believe that they are the legitimate holders of certain office within the political parties. And so Adantale, the IPAC chairman, is saying that the CGN needs to call some of these judges to order, consolidate or harmonize your judgments. The interpretation of the law should be similar, if not the same, even if they are bringing the same case to different courts. What do you think, Fuad?
The problem is not with the judges alone. In fact, it starts with the politicians. The judges just make themselves available for the shenanigans of the politicians, which in itself is also bad. But the problem starts with the long terms of our politicians to behave themselves and coordinate themselves in an orderly manner, to the point where some of the cases are not supposed to even get to the court in the first place. Look at that of the PDP, for example. See, on the issue of who should become the secretary or who is not the secretary of the party. Now they are in court on a case that ordinarily should just go on the line as part of common sense. You were the secretary before, see, for your long. You've abandoned the post and said you wanted to become governor of a state.
You did not win.
And then you went to contest. And then
they should give you
so
back.
you understand that these guys, so at the end of the day, they will go to court now. And their lawyers are very smart. They understand some of the loopholes in our laws. They also know some of our judges, allegedly, who are very corrupt. And so they just continue to play around some of these things. And that's why you have too many cases. Some of them, so you would ask yourself sometimes, see, what then is the usefulness of the party constitution on some of these small matters? What does the constitution of the PDP, for example, say about, okay, if you did this and you say you want to go and court, are you supposed to automatically come and inherit the seat again? Or as immediately you are going, that's the end. So, but our politicians will not behave themselves. And whether it is party or inter-party or intra-party matter, see, at the end of the day, when you cannot agree and it becomes a dispute, where do you take the case to? The court will have to help you out. So long you cannot behave yourselves and coordinate yourselves in a very reasonable manner, to the point where the court don't have to intervene. Because at the end of the day, when disputes get to the point where there can't be reconciliation, in a democracy and a constitutional democracy like ours, it has to be the court who would have a final say. But I agree again that, look, some of the judges too, in some of their rulings, say water don't pass under a bridge. A lot of things have happened. It's clear as daylight that a lot of the judgments you get, some of the ex parte orders, some of the interim injunctions, and some of the rulings, it's almost becoming like a bazaar. I agree. But the bazaar would not have happened in the first place if the politicians had behaved themselves and had coordinated themselves in an orderly manner. But it's also troubling to know that, look, it's almost like, look, justice for sale when it comes to political matters in Nigeria. And we should get concerned about it.
But we have another writer here that sort of highlights the position of Omoyele Sowore on electoral reform. He claims on a television interview that the government in power are stacking the odds in favor of themselves because they are appointing individuals that are loyal to the party into critical institutions like INEC, institutions also like the judiciary. He says, and I quote in part, they've already populated INEC with APC card carrying members. They've already appointed 11 Supreme Court justices under the Tinubu regime. I have evidence of that. You may claim that they are qualified to be elevated, but most Nigerians don't even know these things. ᴏᴜᴜ SᴜɁ also pointed to the recent off-season election in 5 states as evidence of the current administration's manipulation of the electoral system. He says further, and I quote, they have kept INEC under their control. If you want to know, just check the off-season election that they did recently and how it went, end of quote. So this is an ᴏᴜᴜ Sᴜΐ that is alleging that the party in power are already starting to put facilities in place for the upcoming election, and they have their people there, again allegedly, in key institutions like INEC, the judiciary. So even if during the election, he believes that during the election manipulations might occur with INEC, and even at the end of the day, if that fails, that the party in power is able to use the people that they have allegedly installed in the judiciary to swing votes or to swing the decision in their own favor. What are your thoughts about this accusation about a lack of enthusiasm for electoral reform and the allegations of card-carrying members of the APC infiltrating key institutions?
Well, so what is completely maybe some of the allegations not completely proven. There are no evidence completely to some of the things they have said. For example, on whether the entire INEC structure has been completely populated by APC card-carrying members. But we know that, look, to a great extent, some of those things are not completely, are not untrue. There are elements of truth in what he has said. There is maybe a bit of exaggeration, but the fact is that, look, I've been one individual that continued to call for electoral reform before the next general elections. I've said to you consistently here on the platform, saying that if I was a politician, I would never participate in any election with the current structure of our electoral process. This is a process that is bound to fail. There's no way you try to paraphrase it. And that's why you see that about 90 to 95% of our elections end up in court. Yes, you might say, our politicians are natural bad losers. Oh, even if everything goes well, they'll still go to court. But no, there are always grounds for them to go to court when they feel cheated. About a process in itself that does not guarantee fairness and proper conduct of the election. And that's why we are asking this very simple question. Why are we so reluctant, to reform the electoral process? Especially when we have a recommendation somewhere. We have a committee's recommendation somewhere that we can just quickly use. If indeed we have our politicians, if we have politicians who are committed to proper electoral process. The funny thing about our politicians, except for maybe someone like ᴏᴜᴜ Sᴜΐ, is that, look, until they lose elections, they won't complain about the process. Like, it is the only politician, and God bless his soul, that actually accepted that, look, the process that brought him into power was faulty, was the late Yar'Adua, the former president. And on that, he set up a committee to review the entire electoral process, and up to today, since that committee finished its job in 2009, the report of that committee, that recommendation is gathering dust somewhere. Government after government have come. You understand what I'm saying? And they have refused to completely implement the reforms as suggested by the Waste Committee. Jonathan came, he issued a white paper, he set up another committee to look at it. It was until he lost the election that he now realized that we have a very fraudulent and faulty electoral process. The same thing Buhari came, he promised he was going to look into it. A committee was set up to look at it again. Nothing is done. And I doubt that the current government in power will even try to reform anything. Because as it is, it's almost like they are the biggest beneficiary of the very faulty electoral process. And I don't think their body language is suggestive of any attempt to want to reform the process. So until we get politicians who are futuristic, who understand that, look, nation building is not about self-interest, but about the national interest, and are committed to fixing things like this, we're going nowhere. And that's why I'm not excited about elections. See, because of the job, we have to follow it, we have to report it, we have to monitor it. Because a faulty process will always bring people with faulty brains, faulty ideas, faulty thinking. That's what you get. It's just what it is. You can't do the same thing over and over again and expect to have a different result. The same thing you do over and over again and you magically expect that something will change from what you're doing that have brought you to this problem. So I believe that we cannot get anywhere with Nigeria, especially when it comes to nation building, until we reform the electoral process so that our process can bring the best of people to rule the best of us, not a process that continually brings the worst of the people to rule the best of us.
Well, that particular story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. It's 8 a.m. You're still listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. That's Fᴜʟd Side having conversations with us here, acting in his capacity as analyst this morning as we review the front pages. I'm Sage Babalolawa. We're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube, so please join our live stream at Mainland 98.3 FM is how you find us on social media. You can join the live stream. It's Open Mic Thursday today, so you can actually start dropping your comments regarding the stories that we're analyzing as we get through them on our daily. So let's go back to the Guardian newspaper. Another story here for regarding the telcos, the 50% tariff hike. 50% tariff hike is insufficient, says telcos amid pushback by subscribers. The rider, FCCPC, others demand service accountability. Now, despite mounting opposition against the 50% upward review of telephone service charges, telecommunication companies say the approval is insufficient to cover the rising cost of operation. The operators under the aegis of Association of Telecommunication Companies of Nigeria, ATCON, stressed that the 50% hike does not even fully assess their demand. However, they said the approval reflects the Nigerian Communication Commission's acknowledgement of the significant operational challenges that is facing the industry and its commitment to sustaining quality service delivery. We're back to this conversation, Fouad. They had requested a 100% increase. The federal government had told them you have to do 30 to 60% to consider the people who are actually going to be paying these monies, and then they settled for 50%. Well, let's both bear equal amount of loss, so to speak. But because of the pushback that has followed even that 50%, that has trailed even that 50%, the telecommunication companies are highlighting that this was more or less done out of consideration for the recent economic reality of the people. 50% does not even begin to cover our costs. It does not do anything for us, really. It doesn't take care of the problems that we had highlighted, the problems that had initially caused us to demand 100%. Fouad, even the NCC is getting heat for approving the 50%, and even consumer protection agencies are also getting hit because you are not protecting consumers at all, especially because there's hardly any consumer that is comfortable with this 50% hike. Fouad, how exactly are we supposed to once again get people to understand? And do you think that the possibility of a downward review can happen? Can we have a downward review, or you think that 50% is what we're going to have to deal with? Or do you envisage a further increase of this tariff now that telecommunication agencies are saying it's still not enough?
Okay, before we even talk about telecom operators and what they are saying about the fact that, look, even the 50% tariff hike is not enough to cover their costs. Let me first say that, look, I'm not holding brief for the telecom operators. I'm not even an investor. I mean,
I don't know. But I don't know. I'm not supporting this man.
So you can't stand for me.
I will never do such.
But no problem. The fact I don't hold shares in any of the telecom operators companies. I don't have any affiliation. I don't work there. So I don't even think I have any family member, at least the one that I know that works in any of these telecom companies. But for those that are against this 50% hike in telecom service, the question is, where were they? And the number one, or the first group amongst the people that are against this tariff hike of the telecom operators I want to talk about is the Nigerian Labour Congress.
It's strike now.
Where were they? And what did they do? And what were they expecting? When they opened their eye like this, the government moved the price of PMS from around 195, 200 naira per litre to 1,000 plus. So, what were they expecting? Sorry to say. What were they expecting when cost of electricity, whether you call it bandy or whatever you call it, was jacked up by almost 300%? Sage, where were they when import duty was tripled to bring in anything into this country? So what were they expecting? So the telecom operators are what? Are aliens. or they are magicians. They are not part of the country. So every other thing that has gone up by almost times 3 or times 4 in price does not affect the telecoms operators, Abi. The labor people that first said they wanted to get 1 million, they reduced it to 500,000. What were the calculations they were making then to demand for almost 500,000 as minimum wage? Was it not on the same issue of inflation and rising cost of goods and services? So the telecoms operators are immune to that. And then suddenly labor will now continue to flex muscle and say that there are going to be civil actions against telecom operators on this. You don't understand. That's hypocrisy. The people themselves that wanted to get 500,000 as minimum wage because of the rising cost of living, things the telecoms operators are immune to that, right? And then when they eventually got 70,000 naira, they did 7 boza for the president. So those are the same people that you wanted to take seriously. Say, yeah, but that don't disturb themselves because the Nigerians don't even believe in that again. At every turn when Nigerians had expected that they were going to stand for the truth, all the government to account on some of these things, they failed and faltered. And so now it's time to flex muscle on the telecoms operators that have been operating on excruciating, very tough economic conditions. We don't see it, we don't know it, and they run their own energy. Some of them are running 24/7 on generators. We don't know these things, we don't see these things. Yes, I understand that there will be 1 or 2 questions around service delivery. And like I told you the last time, it's even difficult for you to know what is fair or what is fair because we have to see the books and see their cost of operations. Everybody is shouting. There's hardly any manufacturer. Look at what the manufacturers are saying. I think it's one of the papers. That in 2024, over $1 trillion worth of goods was unsold, even after they had struggled to produce some of these things. Because again, apart from the cost going up, people don't have the purchasing power. They can't even buy it. So the SCPCC that is talking now, where were they? Oh, when the government started this aggressive revenue drive, when the government started this, I'm not controlling any price agenda. Oh, when the government started, I'm leaving you to market forces agenda. Let them deal with you the way they want to deal with you. So where were these guys? And so the telecoms operators are the ones who want to flex moving on. Don't be surprised that they are going to shoot for 100% rise. That is the new reality. So far, the government started the policy ab initio. That look, we are not going to operate in a situation. Do we even need to even begin to approve prices for the telecoms operators? If indeed we are running a free market economy, the way we've left it in the hands of the petroleum guys. Oh, you can't control price for the oil sector guys, but you can control for the telecom guys. See, you've told us now that for oil, it is market forces. They can do whatever they like. They can fix prices the way they like. It's market forces. But for the telecom operators, it can't be market forces. Are we playing here? Are we joking here? Or who is deceiving who?
All right, then. Well, again, I think it's mostly consumers that need to understand what's going on here. Now, consumers are not saying that the increase cannot happen. It's just the percentage. The recommendation by consumers is 20 to 25%. They think that
we have a say on petroleum pricing. Are we not also consumers? Well, they even discuss with us. Don't we just see new prices? They give us the opportunity to even question the prices.
No.
And so the telecom are very and the reality is that look, this is the new reality. So long we have not been able to hold the government to account on the thing they promised us. I told you yesterday when the president said Amadewale, was it not price control he was talking about? So how then we suddenly get to the point where price control is no longer terrible? And that when you talk about it, they say you are an enemy of the government. And so we want price control, right, for telecoms operators. Who in the private sector have been probably the most efficient. If you were going to check them with other guys in the other sector, the people will have proved increase of almost 300% rise in their tariff for the power sector people. Are they not the most useless when it comes to service delivery?
Well, this particular story is on page 15. Well, the NLC has threatened legal action. So let's see.
You better go and sit down. You better go and sit down. They have to go and sit down and not disturb people and not distract people unnecessarily.
That's
that particular NLC and TUC should just go and sit down. They've been they fail people, continually fail people, raise dust, just back without biting, and so it's on the telecoms of people who want to flex muscle. It's not waste people's time.
Well, like I said, it's on page 15 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, we also have on the front page of the Guardian, economic crisis spikes malnourishment among 5.4 million kids, UNICEF warns. The writer to that story is UNICEF seeks $250 million with Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina in desperate situation. U.S. mission provides malaria prevention medicine to 2.2 million Nigerian children. Now, cases of malnourished children and its many implications for the nation's economy, especially among weak subnationals, may rise beyond control, as stakeholders yesterday called for urgent attention from the federal, state and local government. This is as the United Nations Children Education Fund disclosed that 5.4 million under 5 children are suffering from acute malnutrition in the northwest and northeast region of Nigeria. This was disclosed yesterday by a UNICEF representative in the country, Ms. Christian Munduate, during a press briefing at the Command Guest House in Gusau, Zamfara State. Fuad, I want you to indulge me so that we can link this story to the rots really in the health sector. We now have on our hands millions of children under 5 years old that are suffering from acute malnutrition. I mean, it's to the point where we're having to receive donations for malaria medicine and what have you. And now, in cases like this, you would expect that a vibrant health sector is able to arrest instances like this one. But it pains me for that across all the papers, we're seeing cases of doctors having to go on strike, complaining poor remuneration, poor infrastructure, back and forth that has been going on for years on end, power failure, that even those that were training to keep the health sector, aboard, are also complaining that they don't even have electricity to study. And I'm talking about UCH specifically for 82 days they have not had power supply. And we have students, this is a teaching hospital, so to speak, so people are supposed to go there, or these students are supposed to go there to learn the trade of medicine, so to speak, but 82 days there is no power. How then do they conduct experiment? How are they able to look in on surgery if there's no power to even conduct all these things for them to study? And so forward, we have a problem on our hand. We have more sick people, and we have a healthcare sector that is in chaos. Forward.
It's troubling. It's difficult to read, and it's so sad to see. Again, you can tie this to everything we discussed this morning, apart from maybe the electoral matter, and you can even tie it to the electoral matters, electoral reform, because at the end of the day, a proper electoral process brings visionary leaders who are not going to abandon a critical sector like the health sector. See, we have visionary leaders who really love their people. We're not going to have this kind of health sector. And it's only a proper electoral system that can bring those kinds of leaders. And that's why some of us are saying that, look, we need to reform this electoral process. We can't continue to do the same thing. Look at the stories you have across the paper. See, from the fact that, look, you had student doctors who had to go out there to carry placards, whereas their other colleagues, there are other people in other parts of the world, are in laboratories, are in hospitals learning in conducive environments, in well-structured environments. Later you blame them for Japan. Are we not already preparing their minds to Japan? When they see the people training them, the old doctors who have spent years in such conditions, they have to be in hospitals without light. The whole UCH. I've had conversations with senior doctors who told me that in the 70s, you had people coming to UCH for medical tourism from the abroad. And so we are now in a very elitist democratic situation where it is about market forces now, to the point where our hospitals can no longer function. The hospitals that the poor patronize can no longer function because they can't pay their electricity bill. And we say we are running a government and we are deceiving ourselves. For 82 days, a teaching hospital. And that's why there's one other story. I think it's one of the stories where I don't know who is telling the minister of the FCT and the people in government that, look, go and patronize the government hospitals to know the real situation of things.
It's the Abuja doctors.
Yes, the Abuja
doctors. In Abuja rather.
I'm telling the FCT minister and the officials of government in Abuja, come and patronize government hospitals in Abuja so that you know the true situation of things there. And it's not just Abuja. Remember when Peter Obi also told our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and you know what? Maybe for you to have a first-hand understanding of how problematic things are in the government hospital, patronize them, go there and use them
But do you want me to play that? Do you want me to play what the doctor said? I have the soundbite.
It will be nice so that people understand what we're saying here.
Okay, let's just take a listen. It's just 48 seconds. It's not very long.
That we keep talking about the same thing over and over again. This didn't start yesterday. I mean, some of us have demands. I've lingered for 4 years, 5 years, 3 years. We have some of them, for example, we've got some of the doctors that have not been paid 6 months salaries, and they worked for it, and they are still working. We've got some hospitals that were working, they are not conducive environment. If we are ready to fix the healthcare system in this country, I would say that every government official must use the government hospitals. Let's start with that first. I would like to see the minister use Wuse General Hospital. I would like to see the Senate President use Maitama General Hospital. I would like to see the Speaker use Yanya General Hospital. Then we can start to fix the system. If they don't use it, then we can't fix it. I'm sorry, but that's the truth.
Well, there you have it. They said ministers, first of all, in fact, if you're a government official, you should be bound. You must use general hospitals, and that's the only way you can
fix it or not, I will not fix it.
Exactly. If you patronize them and then you're treated the way ordinary Nigerians are treated, you would initiate policies that would rectify the ills of the health sector. Is it possible to do that? Or can you force people to use?
Of course, we elected them now. It's not about force now. It's just part of sense of responsibility on their part. Can they be that responsible to Nigerians to also say, okay, yes, you think because they are in those positions they are better than us? We gave them the mandate, even though the process of giving them the mandate is also questionable. We have to question whether we really give them the mandate. But at least the electoral process we have has given them the mandate. But at least they still hold the mandate, and are supposed to hold the mandate to run the government and the country to better the lives of the people. So are you going to fault what that doctor is saying? That would be nice to see the Senate President, for example, visit the Maitama General Hospital. Yᴏᴜᴜ use this other hospital in Abuja, and let us see, so that they also receive the same medical treatment that other Nigerians are receiving, and see whether they will not fix it. The same thing also in the educational sector. Let them put their children in those schools and see whether they will not fix the problem. But you think we have leaders who are that selfless, eh? in their thoughts, in their thinking, in their approach, in their courage and charisma? You think that they will listen to what that man is saying? They probably will go into one corner and say he doesn't know what he's saying. What he's saying? Joking.
I mean, negotiations are always forward.
You know, I've told you about leadership by example. See,
yeah.
Is there anything that you have seen with our government in Nigeria that shows leadership by example? They told you to use CNG. They don't drive CNG cars, right? They told you to tighten their belt. Oh, things are going to tough. Have you seen anything around government that shows that they indeed are tightening any belt? They tell you, oh, you know, we are doing so many things, doing infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. They will not use your own hospital. Oh, we are doing a lot for education, student loans, Cornell fund, bandits, all manner of nonsense around. At the end of the day, their children will not go to those schools. So, where is the leadership by example? And that's what the doctor is saying. That look, until we have leaders who can lead by example, we're not going to be able to fix a lot of the problems we are talking about.
Well, still speaking of the deteriorating health of the Nigerian people, the Guardian is also telling us that there's been 22 deaths, 143 confirmed cases of Lassa fever that have been recorded in 2 weeks. So this just once again highlights the very poor health that we have in the current state of our general health in the country, and the health sector that is supposed to be the savior is also battling for its own sustainability. So we're in a difficult position. We're between a rock and a hard place right now, and that's why we have.
When last did you visit a teaching hospital in Lagos? Maybe one of the 2 teaching hospitals in Lagos.
I haven't been there in a while. We should do that actually. We should
next
we
week,
should go there and see. Oh, I heard. Fuad, I'm so sorry. There was a time that there was a report where individuals were saying that, well, if you want to go and die, that was the statement, go to a general hospital. And it became a trend on social media where people were saying that it's better you just stay in your house, because the minute you step into a general hospital, then you're just going there to die. And then it took a lot of convincing, and for every time somebody tried to get people to see reason, there were statistics that were making it difficult for you to even try to correct that notion.
See, very difficult, really. Not about the inefficiencies of our doctors.
Yes.
They're actually overwhelmed. I told you the last time when I lost a family member, and I had to go to Garage Hospital. And when I got to the emergency ward, the crowd on the doctors. How are they going to function?
The ratio is to 100, I think 100 patients to a doctor or so. Was it 100 or 1,000 patients to one
100.
doctor as the current ratio?
I
Or
don't
something?
know what the figures are supposed to be, but look, and you know the sad part is that, look, no matter how bad you think the Lagos hospitals are, they are still the golden standard of what hospitals should be. If you go to other states, somebody was telling me about the hospitals in Ogun State. You know, I shared an experience with you that it was time I got to that Ifo General Hospital, a general hospital in Ifo, no light anywhere. Also, at night, everywhere was dark. In some of the wards, they just on candle like this. General hospital.
Candles.
In the general hospital.
And then you still will not pay these nurses and these doctors that are working under such conditions 4 or 5 years.
And they now say they are not patriotic because they are doing Japa. Why would they Japa? So those students in UCH in Ibadan that were protesting yesterday, what message is the government giving to them? If that facility can be without light for 82 days and still counting, wait, what are you telling those young ones?
It's very painful, very, very painful indeed. Well, let me read the rest of the headlines we have on the front page of The Guardian so we can move to Punch. We have here, Lagos warns against sharing child pornography, threatens 14-year jail term. That's just sick, really, those who share child pornography. And it's so... It's
How did they even get it in the hospital?
In fact, you'd be shocked. I mean, we still have cases of human trafficking. They don't do these things of their own volition. The children, you know, they're forced to do these things. They're filmed, they're exploited, and what have you. It's also one of the things that Donald Trump in the US is trying to fight against. You know, they're trying to form an association for pedophiles and trying to add them to the LGBTQ plus. That was a very controversial conversation.
So they wanted to form what?
An association for pedophiles. They say persons who love. There's a tag for it. They didn't call themselves pedophiles, but persons attracted to children. Something. I'll find it out for
So
you.
they add it to the
They were trying to add it to the LGBTQ that they exist. You know, and then Trump
God
says,
bless America.
absolutely
God bless
not.
America for electing Donald Trump.
He says absolutely not. If you have feelings for children, you're a
If
sick
on that
person.
one alone,
It says you're a sick
like,
person.
let him deport everybody. But on that one alone, I'm for Donald Trump.
Well,
the problem
Lagos
is,
is trying to.
No matter what you think, it's extremely difficult for him to stop some of these things. I can tell you things. Again, you're going to try what he can do, but the structure in itself is probably going to make it difficult for him to solve these issues of LGBTQ and all manner of nonsense going on in the world. Those guys are stronger than you can imagine. The deep state, dark world kind of arrangement.
Well, Lagos is doing all it can to make sure that it doesn't become a culture in the state, and they're threatening 14-year jail term. Yeah, 14-year jail term for anyone who shares child pornography. If you're caught, you will face the law. Is on page 8. We also have here, Tinubu spent 300 billion naira on Abuja satellite town in 12 months. So there's the project, you know, apparently this is supposed to aid rural settlement, amongst other things, improve quality of standard when it comes to housing in Abuja. And so there's the satellite town, and so far on that project they've spent about 300 billion naira in Abuja. As on page 28. We have on page 8
just a minute on that, because again, we've had a lot of commendations, you know, accolades for Mr. Yᴏ on his infrastructure exploits in Abuja. New roads being commissioned almost every day. Again, the monies are available, so you expect that, you know, the world probably make statements with those projects. You know, he's known for a man that likes a lot of projects. I think when he was in River State too, you had situations where he commissioned projects almost on every day, almost on daily basis. Sorry, but say if you read about the Sustainable Development Goals that the United Nations is trying to push to the rest of the world, and a simple definition of Sustainable Development Goals is that, look, you are planning for the future, why not jeopardizing the present, right? This is the issue. We can go on this aggressive infrastructure drive, build roads and all of that. But what about the living standards of the people that will use the roads? Because Sustainable Development Goals talks about what? Planning for the future, improving on infrastructure, putting things in place. But you must also pay attention to the people you are building the roads for, so that they don't die before you finish the road. I will not say more than that.
Well, that particular story, right? Sometimes you make it so hard for me to be diplomatic, to be honest. Well, that particular story is on page 28 of the Guardian newspaper, and we have court sentences Abuja bishop to 20 years for rape. This is on page 8. Well, it's good that the law is taking its
bishop.
Before I think that we need to stop holding certain individuals to higher standard. Honestly, I don't do it regardless of the position that you have. I don't hold you to any higher. You are a human being. It's just the title. It doesn't make you any different.
So don't
I've never done it. I really don't. But then it's on page very religious society, so you can understand the sentiments, right, and why they hold these people.
You saw the story of the Catholic priest that ran to somewhere to go and
apparently he had submitted, right, to be relieved.
He didn't wait for approval.
He didn't wait for approval. He just went on ahead to get married. They were going to approve it anyway, so he just decided to help
it. What could have happened?
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We have the NWC insists on Damagum worries over PDP's future. That's on page 8. I think everybody is worried about PDP's future. We have the Punch newspaper here. The top story: communities tackle federal government over compensation for 3,252 owners. Project continues despite Nigeria-Niger tension. 5,531 persons dissatisfied with compensation. Now, construction work has intensified on the $1.96 billion Kano Maradi rail project, despite the strained relationship between the federal government and the military junta in Niger after a lull. And the government had accused President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration of plotting to destabilize the francophone country. Although the project is partly financed by Africa Development Bank, it will run through 122 communities in 25 local government areas of 3 states in Nigeria and 11 communities in 3 communes in Niger Republic. The crux of the story, basically, Fuad, is that those whose settlement who were displaced for this project, over 3,000 of them, they're saying that the compensation is inadequate. And again, that takes us back to the provisions for compensation. It's very vague, Fuad. It says, they will be compensated, but to what amount, to what tone? Do you look at the particular project you're demolishing, or the ones that are affected? Do you look at the cost of the project and use that while compensating them, or you just give them a meager amount of money or based on your own discretion? What kind of review do we need to do such that if you're affected even by general project, we know the law says that if that project is for general good, you'd have to sacrifice, yes, but then what can we do to also protect people? They're making a huge sacrifice. How can we also take care of them whilst we're catering to the larger public?
Well, it's difficult. Maybe we have legal resolutions, fair legal resolutions to this matter. That's the same thing too with the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway.
Yes.
Until now, the landmark man is still complaining about losing a lot of money, losing his investment, and so this Kano Maradi rail line is also coming up. Property owners, farm owners, some of them have lost acres of farm to this project, and they are complaining that the compensation is not adequate. Compensation in itself is discretionary, and on the issue of these kinds of compensation, it's even worse because they are not clear, definition of what should be the standard. It's just discretionary. I think the man in Landmark was saying that I think they gave him, they even give him out to 100 million naira.
I don't have the figures right now.
And I'm sure that's a project worth billions of naira. You look at what the man had invested in that place. So it's just what it is. Until we fix that part of these issues of compensation, we continue to have these issues. That Maradi rail line is a Buhari project. Just Buhari who wanted the project, and nothing more than that. The economic advantage for Nigeria, I don't know whether we've really been able to define that.
Yeah, especially now that there's a little bit of tension between Nigeria and Niger with the accusations and what have you.
And we are closing our borders and all that.
Yes, so we don't know. It's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Other headlines here: Alaafin Owade puts traditional rights on hold, returns to Canada. It's on page 5. We don't have time. We'll talk about it when we come back. We have less than 30 seconds to leave. It's on hold, and it's going back to Canada.
It's on back to Canada.
Yes, he will come back. I hope so. It's on page
14.
Probably. Groups ask IG to probe controversial video on Mohbad's death. It's on page 5. Let this boy rest. It's on page 5. We also have again Anyanwu Ude Okoye clash over PDP secretary seats. It's on page 12.
That's the future of PDP. It's in the hands of those two. And yet on week.
Finally on page 16, sometimes just let these things go. Don't kick them while they are down. It's on page 16. Enugu community celebrate Ekweremadu wife return from the UK jail. I listened to the program yesterday. I think Okweremi did announce that she's back. The Enugu community is celebrating.
And the community celebrated it.
Yes.
Maybe she's so useful for the community.
I mean,
and so they were so happy to see her back.
There's a governor that was accused of looting people dry, and when they released him, the people that they were trying to protect were celebrating him. So what are you talking about? What? That's not.
You want my honest opinion?
I'm just saying it's not an indication of a person's character. It's just solidarity. Yeah, but that doesn't. It's not a testament to the person's
based on
character.
What? Good thinking or?
That's up to you, Afwad, our God. That's all we have for you this morning on Trends of the Papers. It's Open Mic Thursday, so when we come back from the break, you get to select the stories that you'd like to analyze. Thank you so much, Fuad, for your time. We appreciate you. Yes, the Morning Express continues. Don't go anywhere. You're still on to Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.